Hi, I'm André Kuzniarek. I'm the Executive Director of Document and Media Systems at Wolfram Research, and today I'll be talking about notebooks and CDF, anything new that's going on there, and how we're adjusting some of our terms of use. Every year, I give a talk about where things are going or where they've gotten to with our CDF format, CDF technology. This year, it's changing up a little bit. I'll get to that in my talk, but I'll start with going through updates on what's happened throughout the last year since the last conference. We had released iOS Player, which is pretty exciting for us because it completes our three-legged stool message, so to speak, about our platform deployment. So covering desktop systems, the web, server-based cloud systems, and mobile devices. The story around the iOS Player is a slightly different rule set of usage when it comes to interacting with the content of a CDF on the player or notebook. But it mostly works out relatively straightforwardly if you've already got a cloud account with us, so you use your cloud login on the mobile device. If CDF files are being deployed from an enterprise product, they'll just be interactive for people. Or you can do a one-time in-app purchase on the player on the iOS device. We got, of course, our 11.3 product release out in March, and we've been pretty good about getting our player to follow that very quickly. And of course, our goal is that we'd like to never have to say anything new about the player. It's like, hey, it's perfect. But there's always a few little updates and tweaks and bug fixes that need to be handled. We did a redesign of the startup screen that has for a little while now, we've had the Player Pro upgrade indicator on that screen, so you can yourself relicense the player to be a Player Pro application, which regardless of what type of file you're opening, you can use it at the highest level our player technology allows, which is the same as enterprise. And you can also hide the startup screen, which for a lot of folks is nice once they get it. Yes, I'm using a player. The file menus in our desktop products were also modified, and there's more modification coming with version 12. But we had simplified things to a CDF preview menu item, and from the preview, you then have the option for exporting to CDF, and it's automatically tied to whatever license level you're at. The biggest story, of course, in the last year and a half or so has been that the web plugin that had always been part of our player product and part of all of our desktop products simply isn't supported by any browsers anymore. It's just true for everybody's plugins. Adobe had been getting a pass for the longest time, but even that's going away. It's just not a plugin world anymore, and that's really something that makes our cloud efforts a priority. And we're always throwing the word cloud around. We shouldn't let people be confused by that term. We really just mean our technology running on the web and usable by anybody in web pages they create or in web files that they share. And that's an important story for us. It allows for pretty much anybody to have access to what we offer with no complications. But it's a pretty ambitious project on our parts, and you've been hearing that story from Stephen for the last couple of years about quite a bit of work involved in making that play well. But we've been getting there. So in the case of, here, the notebook archive that Stephen had mentioned, we were expecting to be able to deliver notebooks through our cloud system for anybody to use anytime, and hopefully operate relatively smoothly. So right now, I'm clicking on a thumbnail, I'm rendering a notebook, and here it is. It's got a few issues. We're still in the middle of converting a lot of these. But the point being that we want these things to render quickly, much like using a static web page, and then to always have the option to get at using the notebook in its entirety in an interactive way through your own account or download it to desktop. These options are kind of hidden right now in a corner little feature, but the point Stephen was making at his keynote was really that we want to emphasize that feature. Let's see, where did my talk disappear to? Okay, so similarly with demonstrations, we've been running these in the cloud, and it somewhat depends on our connectivity. I thought I tested this just like Stephen thought he tested it when he was trying to show it. And now, again, my particular Wi-Fi here does not seem to want to let me run this. And all I guess I can recommend is to try it on your own. Don't really know why I'm running into this problem. But all of our, oh, here we go, finally, okay. These are all running with a preview and then a download that follows. Ideally, the timing of the sequence is that the preview video is overlaid on top of the download process. Most of the time that works cleanly. Again, configuration here is not the best thing. So you kind of witness the blue line and the cloud object filling in. But in the end, you've got something that you can interact with directly. I don't have a plugin. I didn't download a player to make this work, and it can work for everybody. And of course, straight from the new options we offer here, you can get access to the source, either in your own cloud account or downloaded to your desktop. You can copy the actual manipulate object to your clipboard and paste it into your desktop product. And otherwise, we've done a bit of a facelift on everything that's here. One other cool thing, just by putting everything together through our a cloud system that is really like a server that's at your fingertips, hopefully without having to think about it too much. In the case of demonstrations, just because I'm talking about them, is having resource objects through our resource system at your fingertips. So this should be working right now with 11.3, and certainly with version 12, the full collection will be fleshed out, but I should be able to evaluate something as simple as this, but there we go. You can see there's a warning here about connection issues. This is just a string that is the title of the demonstration, and I'm just using it as the argument to this resource data function, and that gives me the manipulate object that is stored under that title. There's just I think we've got 10,000 of these up and running. We're just getting down to the last 1,000. Besides the object itself, you can collect details about what's in it. This detail about the description includes these key names that this is all part of a string, and that's the way the string is produced or put together in the object. Should we probably smooth that out? I think so. Having little key indicators would be nicer. And of course, you can put the actual notebook object there, but I just want to move forward. Let's talk about what's new, okay? So the biggest story for us right now is that notebooks are back as far as we're concerned. They've never really gone away, but the messaging from our company, the story that we've been trying to tell about notebooks had been something we really couldn't get out as much as we liked years back. And we invented the concept of CDF because we knew that people at least understood the idea of working in a master desktop product to create content and then to push a button to put it out into the world in a portable form. People understood that from the paradigm established mostly by Adobe with PDF, and certainly using products across the board that supported PDF, but particularly if you're using an Adobe product to draw something or to create a fancy document, you always know that you can produce a PDF that you can give to anybody, and anybody has the player to look at it and use it. So, we piggybacked on that idea, and CDF rhymes with PDF. Computable document format is exactly what is going on with our technology. So we had a pretty strong message with that, and we thought we would try to trademark the word notebook, but we really couldn't get there with it. It's a little too generic. If you do a Google search on notebook, certainly years back, what are you going to find? Little spiral Mead notebooks that kids use in school. So we just didn't feel like notebook was a strong message, or at least strong enough for us. But now it is. And the reason is because of this. Our patents have expired on how our notebook interface operates. And that turned out to be useful for the Jupyter group and others like Google's CoCalc and RStudio, and then the list goes on, where these technical suites are using a document format that borrows a lot of the conventions we've established and calling them notebooks. Hey, welcome to the party, So they're doing the lifting for us. We shouldn't ignore it. It's absurd if we were to walk away from that. So we're embracing the notebook message again. And certainly for us, we invented them. So of course we should reclaim a certain amount of ownership of that message space. So strategically, what that means for us is the concept of a free CDF is something we're just going to dispense with. The player that we're going to be putting out with version 12 is called Wolfram Player. It's not CDF Player. And the idea is that any notebook you create with any of our desktop products, Mathematica, whatever, is playable in the player. It no longer requires the magic number signing that we used to do for CDF. That was useful for us because it kept things separate from what was going on with the straight notebook. We had a licensing terminology associated with free CDF that I think was somewhat confusing for people, perhaps a little off-putting. It was essentially focused on the share-alike concept, what we were telling people, and it's a Creative Commons license. It's not like we were inventing something outrageously new or different. But what it told people was that you put things out in free CDF, you're sharing it with the world in a way that you can't hang on to. You're abandoning your exclusive license rights to it. And okay, it's the trade-off that you make with this free thing. But it sort of intersects, but not completely, with the idea of whether it's a commercial or non-commercial usage. We do find that it's easier for people to grasp that idea. If you're selling something, if you're making something to sell it, that's a commercial use, and you should be talking to us. But what that means is we can now say that go ahead, just use your notebooks, put your notebooks out there. If somebody's got the Wolfram Player, they can interact with the notebook at the same level they ever did as they did with free CDF. But if you're a publisher, and you're selling this to your students, okay, you should be talking to us. That's how our license is working. That said, for all the folks here, and I see plenty of you that are enterprise level customers, there's no change. Enterprise CDF is still a thing. CDF is still the concept of I'm deploying something out from our Mathematica, Wolfram 1, Wolfram Desktop, to my individual customer base as an application. It isn't just a distribution of the document I've been working with. It's an actual deployed application that remains part of our CDF message. That remains enterprise CDF. To be clear, it was always a little bit of a problem we had with the notion that CDF was our deployment story. Notebooks aren't just about deployment. It's one part of our overarching message about how you work with our system. And a person who is just doing research is just trying to solve a problem for themselves. They're working in a notebook, and maybe that's all they'll ever do. They'll finish their work, they'll put it away, they're done. It's not about, oh, I have to think about, am I going to convert this to something? So we really want to get back to that notion of let people just share what they've been working in if it comes to the point where, oh, wait, I should, give this to Jerry, So our CDF website, which maybe you've all visited in the past, we'll get some tweaking, but it's, the story we want to tell goes beyond our CDF website now. But that said, you will see this change on there where we're speaking to, what is our licensing about now for what's going on. You're either dealing with notebooks or you're dealing with enterprise CDF. So in telling our notebook story, the current pages we have, our website, I think, was for a while lacking in a good sort of homepage of notebooks. And so we developed that over the last year. I helped put this page together that really nicely talks about, how our notebooks work. Similarly, we've got a new, what we call feature set page. We've already done a couple of these different sites that really kind of explain our approach to things. Particularly, we did one for machine learning. We've got this one coming for notebooks going forward. So this should be going live in a couple weeks. Very nice page. And, by the time you get to the bottom of it, there will be another section here pointing to all kinds of different resources, including any of the details on what I've been talking about right now. So I want to leave that up as, this is where the story will continue to be told. All right, I have to wrap up here, so thank you.